I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 6 years now. We met in college, hit it off pretty quickly, and honestly, I thought we had a good thing going. She was the kind of girl who seemed perfect, smart, funny, attractive, and she always seemed to have her act together. I trusted her completely, or at least I did until about 3 months ago when everything started to feel off. At first, I just noticed little things. She was more distant, secretive about her phone, sometimes stayed out a little later than usual. I didn't think much of it at first. I figured she was just busy at work or stressed. But then I started catching her in little lies. She'd say she was at the gym, but her phone was silent for hours. She'd say she was working late, but I'd see her Instagram messages popping up during the day. It was subtle, but enough to make me suspicious. Still, I kept telling myself I was paranoid. I mean, maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe I was just insecure. Then things got fucking worse. About 2 weeks ago, I found her phone unlocked on the nightstand, and out of curiosity, I looked. There were texts, flirty, suggestive texts between her and her best friend, Jake. I'd known Jake for years. He was a good guy, or at least I thought he was. But reading those messages, I realized they'd been talking like that for months. She'd been planning secret meetups, sneaking out, and hiding it all from me. My stomach dropped like I'd been punched. I felt sick. All those years I'd trusted her, and she'd been lying right to my face. I confronted her that night, of course. I showed her the messages and her reaction. Well, it was a masterclass in how to lie through your teeth. She laughed, called me paranoid, said I was twisting things. She said Jake was just a friend, that I was reading too much into it. But I knew better. I could see it in her eyes. She knew she'd been caught, but she was trying to deny it with everything she had. She told me it was nothing, just some harmless flirting, that I was making a big deal out of nothing. That's when I realized I was dealing with a woman who thought she was untouchable, who believed she could do whatever she wanted and lie her way out of it. The emotional toll hit me hard. I felt anger, betrayal, sadness. How long had this been going on? Had I missed all the signs? Did I ever really know her? I started questioning everything, my judgment, my worth, our entire relationship. I kept asking myself how she could do this, especially now at our stage in life when I'd finally proposed, when I thought we were building a future. But her lying, her dismissiveness, it made everything seem so hollow. I was crushed and I didn't know what to do next. I just knew I couldn't keep living like this, not knowing how long she'd been lying or if she'd do it again. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I kept replaying her words, her fake laughs, the way she dismissed my concerns like I was overreacting. I started to notice more things, her sudden disappearances, her phone always being glued to her hand, even when she was supposed to be working late. She'd get defensive if I asked about her plans or her whereabouts, and she'd throw out these ridiculous excuses like I just needed some time for myself, or you're being paranoid. But I saw through all of it. One particular night I came home early from work, something I rarely did, and I decided to check her phone again. I needed to see if anything had changed, if she'd slipped up again. As I scrolled through her texts, I found more of the same. Even worse, I saw that she'd been lying about her whereabouts. She told me she was at her sister's house, but her messages told a different story. She was with Jake, and they were doing things I don't even want to describe. I saw explicit messages, pictures of them in bed, and the worst part, she seemed proud of it, like she wanted me to know she was cheating. I remember feeling like the world was crashing down around me. My hands were trembling as I looked at her messages, trying to process what I was seeing. How could she do this? How long had she been lying? I felt a mixture of rage and heartbreak, like I'd been hit with a freight train. I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore, not if I wanted to save myself from getting more hurt. That's when I decided I had to confront her again, but this time I had proof. The next day, I got home early again, and I made sure to hide my phone where she wouldn't find it. When she walked in, I called her out in front of everything. Her lies, her cheating, her bullshit, like she always had an excuse ready. I laid everything out, played the messages on my phone, watched her face drain of color. She started crying, of course, acting all innocent, saying I was misinterpreting things, that I didn't understand her, that she loved me but she needed something more. She called me paranoid, accused me of spying on her like I was the villain. Honestly, the whole scene was surreal. I felt my stomach twist. I was furious, but I was also heartbroken. I wondered how she could look me in the eye and lie so easily, how she could be so bitchy about it all, telling me I was overreacting, that I was crazy, that I was ruining everything. She kept insisting it was just sex, just a fling, nothing serious, that she didn't mean to hurt me. But I knew better. It wasn't just about the sex. It was the lies, the betrayal, the way she'd thrown everything we had away like it meant nothing. That moment I realized I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep living in her lies, waiting for her to come clean or for her to stop. Part of me wanted to break down, scream, tear her apart, anything to make her feel as broken as I felt. But I also knew I had to be smart about it. I needed a plan. If she thought she could just lie her way out of this, I'd have to show her she was wrong. She wasn't going to get away with this without consequences. This wasn't just a fling anymore. It was a betrayal that cut deep into everything I believed about us. She crossed a line, and I knew I had to do something about it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept going over everything in my head, trying to figure out my next move. I knew I was hurt, angry, and betrayed, but more than anything, I was determined not to let her think she could just brush this off. I wanted her to feel some of the pain she'd put me through, but I also knew I had to be careful. Reacting in anger wasn't going to get me anywhere. I needed a plan, a way to hit her where it hurt without giving her the chance to spin more lies. So I started thinking about what I could do. First, I needed solid proof, something she couldn't deny or dismiss. I decided I'd record her when she least expected it. I wanted to catch her in the act if she ever tried to deny what I already knew. I got a cheap recorder app on my phone and kept it in my pocket during the day, just in case. I also called one of my buddies, Dave, who's a bit of a mastermind when it comes to sneaky stuff. I told him what I was planning, and he helped me figure out the best way to set it up. The next step was tricky. I had to get her to slip up again. I didn't want her to suspect anything, so I played it cool. I started paying more attention to her, following her around a little bit, trying to catch her in a moment of vulnerability or weakness. I noticed she was still acting distant, still sneaking around, and I knew she was probably planning her next move with Jake. I kept my cool and waited, knowing that something would happen soon. And then it did. One evening, I was working on my laptop when I saw her sneak out of the bedroom, her phone in her hand. I followed her at a distance, pretending I didn't notice. She headed straight to her car and drove off, but I had already set up the recorder in her purse earlier that day. I waited a few hours, then checked the recording. There she was, talking to Jake on the phone, giggling and flirting. I could hear them clearly, her voice, his voice, the way she was talking about meeting up, about keeping this a secret, and how she said she couldn't wait to see him again. It was almost too much to take in. I felt my chest tighten, my fists clench. She had been lying to me every step of the way, and I had proof, real, undeniable proof. I knew what I had to do next, and it wasn't going to be pretty. The next day, I decided I'd get her to admit everything face to face. I called her, told her I needed to talk, that I had some things I couldn't ignore anymore. She tried to play it cool, act like nothing was wrong, but I could see the flicker of guilt in her eyes. When she finally sat down across from me, I laid the recordings out on the table. I played them all. Her voice, her laugh, her plans with Jake, everything. Her face turned white, her mouth opened and closed like she was trying to come up with some excuse, some lie to get out of it. She looked at me, eyes brimming with tears, and said, "Mike, it's not what it looks like. You don't understand. Jake and I were just sex, that's all. It's meaningless. I didn't mean to hurt you, I swear." She said she was confused, that she loved me but was weak, that Jake was just a rebound or some stupid mistake. She kept crying, acting like she was the victim, like I was the one overreacting. But I wasn't buying any of it. I felt nothing but emptiness and rage. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she be so callous about what she'd done? That moment was the breaking point. I realized I was done trusting her, done pretending this wasn't happening. I could see she was trying to manipulate me, to make me feel guilty for catching her, but I wasn't going to fall for it. I knew her game now. She thought she could play me, that I'd just forgive her and move on, but I wasn't that guy anymore. I saw her for what she really was, selfish, deceitful, and careless about the vows she took. I knew I had to decide whether to keep going down this path or cut her loose and walk away. And honestly, part of me was already preparing to do just that. After she finished her crying and her weak, desperate apologies, I just sat there staring at her, feeling numb. I wasn't angry anymore, at least not the immediate kind of rage I had earlier. It was something deeper, colder. I realized I'd been naive to think she was anything close to being honest or faithful. All those years, all those moments I trusted her and she'd been lying right to my face. I couldn't just forgive her, not after seeing what I saw. I worked on calming my nerves, trying to think clearly. I knew I had to make a decision, whether to forgive her and try to move past this, or to finally walk away. Honestly, part of me wanted to burn everything down and leave her to pick up the pieces of her own mess. But I also knew that whatever I decided, it had to be final. No more lies, no more pretending. I couldn't go back now. I told her to leave. I told her I needed space to think, to figure out what I really wanted from this mess. She argued, of course, begging me to forgive her, saying she'd changed, that she loved me and didn't want to lose everything. But I wasn't convinced. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You lied for months, maybe longer. You betrayed me in the worst way possible. I don't know if I can ever trust you again, Lisa. I don't think I want to." She left crying, slamming the door behind her, and I sat there in silence. I felt a strange mix of relief and despair. Relief that I finally knew the truth, but despair because I knew this was the end of what I thought was our life. How long had she been lying? Had she ever truly loved me? Or was I just some placeholder for her until she found something better? Those questions haunted me, and honestly, I don't think I'll ever get the answers. In the following days, I started to pick up the pieces. I threw her out, changed the locks, and started packing my stuff. I kept replaying the moments when I first discovered her lies, trying to understand how I missed all the signs. I kept asking myself why she did it, why she thought she could get away with it, and how someone I loved could be so fucking selfish. Turns out, the more I thought about it, the more I realized I'd been a fool for trusting her so blindly. Now I'm living with the aftermath. I've told a few close friends, and honestly, I feel like I'm just starting to come to terms with what happened. I know I'll never forget, and I know I'll carry this pain for a long time. But I also know I deserve better, better than someone who lies and cheats and tears a marriage apart. I've realized I need to rebuild myself, to find out who I really am without her. So here's what I've learned. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's damn near impossible to repair. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how small they seem. And if someone cheats on you, don't give them the chance to lie and manipulate their way out of it. Cut them loose. Because in the end, you're better off alone than with someone who treats you like an afterthought. It's been a few weeks now since I kicked her out, and honestly, the whole thing still feels surreal at times. Some days I wake up expecting her to walk through the door, acting like nothing happened. Other days, I'm angry all over again, replaying everything in my head and wishing I had done it differently. But I've come to accept that I can't change the past. What's done is done. The only thing I can do now is figure out how to move forward. I've started focusing on myself. I've gone back to the gym, reconnected with some old friends, and even picked up some hobbies I'd neglected. It's not easy. I catch myself sometimes wondering if I'll ever really trust anyone again. But I know I can't let her betrayal define me. I refuse to be that guy who's always looking over his shoulder, waiting for the next betrayal. Instead, I want to rebuild my confidence, learn to trust again, but this time more carefully. One thing I realized is how much her lies had affected my self-esteem. I kept questioning whether I was good enough, whether I'd missed signs, whether I was just a fool for believing in her. But I've started to see that it wasn't about me. It was about her, her selfishness, her need for validation, her inability to be honest. I've come to understand that her actions say more about her than they do about me. And that's a hard lesson, but an important one. I also learned that revenge isn't always the answer. I used to think about ways to get back at her, spreading rumors, confronting her friends, even some petty stuff. But in the end, I realized that the best revenge is simply moving on, living well, and showing her that she lost something real. I want her to see that I'm better without her, that I don't need her, and that her lies can't destroy me. There's still a part of me that's angry and hurt, and maybe that will never go away entirely. But I've also found a strange sense of peace. I'm not perfect, and I still have days where I feel broken, but I know I'm stronger than I was before. This experience, as painful as it is, has taught me to value myself more and to be more cautious about who I trust. To anyone going through something similar, I'll say this: don't let their betrayal define you. Take your time to grieve, but don't stay stuck in anger or sadness forever. Use this as a chance to rebuild, to learn your worth, and to come out on the other side better for it. Because in the end, you deserve someone who respects you, who values honesty, and who wouldn't dare betray you like that. And if they do, let them go. Because there's a better life waiting for you, one that doesn't include lies and heartbreak. Looking back, I realize how much this whole nightmare has changed me. At first, I thought I was just angry and betrayed, but now I see I was also naive, trusting someone so blindly, believing in the fairy tale that we had built together. My heart was broken, yes, but what hurts more is knowing that I was blind to the signs, that I ignored them or dismissed them because I wanted to believe in us. That lesson is one I'll carry forever. Trusting blindly can cost you everything. Now I try to see the good in moving on. I don't hate her, at least not anymore. I feel sorry for her, honestly. She's the one who threw away something real, something worth fighting for, just for a fleeting moment of pleasure or validation. That's her loss, not mine. I've learned that sometimes the person you love the most can also be the one who hurts you the deepest. But that doesn't mean I'll be bitter forever. I see this as a wake-up call, a brutal but necessary lesson about boundaries, honesty, and self-respect. Most importantly, I've come to see that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived her betrayal, and I'm still standing. I may be bruised, but I'm still here, still fighting to rebuild my sense of self. It's not about revenge anymore. It's about reclaiming my life and my happiness. I know now that I don't need someone who lies and cheats to fill a void. I need someone who respects me, who values honesty, and who understands that love is about trust and mutual respect, not games or secrets. To anyone out there dealing with betrayal, this shit hurts, no doubt about it. But it's also an opportunity to look inward, to grow, and to understand what you truly deserve. Don't settle for less. Don't stay with someone just because you're afraid of being alone. Because trust me, being alone beats being with someone who doesn't value you. It's better to face the loneliness and build yourself back up than to stay in a relationship that's built on lies. The truth is, I'm not quite the same man I was 6 months ago. I'm stronger, wiser, more cautious. And I know I'll find happiness again on my own terms. Maybe someday I'll trust again, but it'll be on my own terms, not because I'm desperate or naive. I've learned that the hard way, and I'm finally okay with that. So I guess this is where I say that life goes on even after betrayal. You just have to decide how you want to handle it. For me, I'm choosing to walk away, rebuild, and never let someone's lies define who I am. Because in the end, the only person who can truly heal you, who can make you whole, is yourself. And I'm finally learning how to do that.